really thought about this since it happened. Like I didn't practice this. Last time I thought about this whole story, going through it, I was writing it on an air sick bag while traveling from Phoenix to Chicago, and then I lost the air sick bag in my apartment. So but there was an eclipse this summer. If you're gonna see the eclipse, you really gotta see it with an astrophysicist. Now, maybe some of you don't know an astrophysicist, and that would probably be like the weirdest Craigslist ad ever. But I am blessed to know an astrophysicist. So this summer in August, I flew out to Phoenix, met up with my friend Justice, who has a doctorate in astrophysics, and then we met up with someone else, and we were going to drive all the way up to Wyoming to see the eclipse. And it was great. So it was me, my friend Justice. We're both in our mid-30s, and then there was another friend of hers that I had never met, named Laura, who was in her young 20s, from this middle of nowhere town called Elmira in New York. She was so young and innocent. And we got to spend 13 hours in a car driving up to Wyoming. That is a whole bunch of different stories, but I don't remember Utah being so tall. It is a long drive. It is a long drive filled with nothing until you get around Zion. Then it's a long drive filled with red rocks and tour buses. Now, Laura smoked, and Justice hated smoking, and I was siding with Justice because I was staying at her apartment. So when we stopped, Laura, who didn't have any money, would always bum for cigarettes. I wouldn't give her money for cigarettes because I'm with Justice, who hates smoking, right? But about these tour buses, one fun memory from middle of nowhere, Utah. She stopped a tour bus and she's trying to get a cigarette, and there was someone from China who bought Chinese cigarettes, and they smelled terrible. It's not, I don't know why, maybe it's just brand, I'm sure there's plenty of American brands that smell terrible, like they're just cut with barber's hair or something. But it also had like this tiny little hint of good smell, sort of like a skunk, where it's like terrible, but you kind of like it. And then she would have to stand downwind. We'd air her out, and then we'd put her in the back seat. That's the thing. The whole drive, it was me and Justice in the front seat, and then little Laura in the back, who slept like the whole ride, except when she would get up, and then we'd kind of like try to open her eyes to the world. Because my friend Justice had just come back. Like right now, she's just come back from a Women's March. Like we're very progressive, and she would say like, "Why do Black Lives Matters? People hate cops," and we'd be like, "Okay, hold on." So then we would have to like open her eyes, and it was beautiful. And it wasn't just her that was learning, because as a man, if you have the opportunity to sit quietly in a car while two young women converse what it's like to be like a young woman, you hear terrible things. I learned so much. One thing that sticks with me, when you're walking down the street, walk on the left side, because if a car pulls up to you, they can't pace you while you keep walking. That's a thing I never thought of. So we're headed to Wyoming. And we don't have Verizon, which apparently is the only phone service that works in the middle of nowhere. So we're stopping at like these like Flying J plazas every once in a while to use their Wi-Fi to make sure we're headed in the wrong spot. Luckily with Google Maps, you could download a map, and then you could still get satellite pings to figure out roughly where you are. And that comes in handy later. So we left Flagstaff late. So the sun's going down as we're cutting through the northwestern corner of Colorado. So by the time we're in Wyoming, it's dark, and we're still an hour and a half away. And so we finally make it. So we're going to be going to this plateau area called Crystal Gardens Petroglyph Site. It's BLM land, not Black Lives Matter, but Bureau of Land Management. So why does Bureau of Land Management hate cops? Laura, no, it's not. It's a different BLM. So obviously there's no cell phone service or paved roads, and it's like midnight. So we had downloaded a map, and I'm like, okay, make a left up here. But if you've never, Wyoming, I learned how to read a map in Wyoming because we didn't have cell phone service, and it's like the dotted gray line means unpaved road. I'm not used to that in Akron. But there's a lot of dotted gray lines in rural Wyoming. And by rural Wyoming, I mean Wyoming. So I'm looking at the map, I'm like, okay, just kind of veer this way. So it's almost 1 a.m., driving down. Once we leave the road and we're getting to the campsite where we're supposed to meet other astronomers who've come from all over, like, because that's the thing, I guess. It's just like all astrophysicists know each other. I don't know, I guess. So it's not, I didn't even see it with just one. It was like half a dozen astrophysicists. I was just surrounded by eggheads. It was fantastic, because it's the best way to see it. And so we leave the road, and then it's another 24 miles till we get to where we want to be. And it's dark, and if you ever, like, it's pitch black, it's only where the headlights are going. So just driving down this road, and you gotta go kind of slow because there's wildlife, except jackrabbits. They were everywhere. And because they just run off to the side of the road, except the occasional stupid jackrabbit that would just run in front of the car. You know, like, it's like, no, just move, dude. So we finally get to the site, and there are cars everywhere. And we have no way of contacting these people that we're supposed to be meeting with because we don't have Verizon. So we're just like, okay, I guess we'll just set up camp here. So we have this little pup tent that she's borrowing from a coworker, and it's 7x7. We've never set it up before. It's dark. So we set it up, and I didn't even know this was possible, especially now that I'm older and my eyes are getting crappier. But we set it up by starlight. The moon was not in the sky because the moon was going to be covering up the sun the next day. So the moon's on the other side of the planet, and it's just so many stars that you can't see constellations. It's milky. Just name the galaxy after that. And you can make out shapes, and we set up the tent using starlight. This still blows my mind because there were no city lights. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. There's just stars and darkness. So we set it up, and we lay down, and we leave the door open for about half an hour while we're talking and kind of like getting accustomed to laying on the ground because we didn't bring pads or anything. And the Perseids had been like at their peak a few days earlier, so we're laying on our back, looking up at the sky, and every once in a while you just see a meteorite from the Perseid meteor shower. It was great. We finally we zip it up and we try to get some sleep. And at this time it's probably about 2 a.m. and sleeping doesn't work. I'm on this side, Justice is in the middle, and then there's Laura on the other side, and I don't. Like, we should have just gotten in a big puddle, like a cuddle puddle for warmth, but we didn't. And, it was cold. I slept maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like, I made it till about, like, right before dawn, where, like, you know the sun's coming up, but it's not up yet. There's just kind of like that faint hint of light on the eastern sky. So I was like, screw it. I'm up for the day. Like, I wake up, Justice is in the middle shivering, so I just throw my blankets on top of her, and I'm like, I'm gonna go out. Because I couldn't see anything the night before. I should explore. So, it's amazing. We're on this plateau so that you could look 30, 40 miles in any direction until the horizon kind of fades out in a little bit of haze, because there was forest fires out there, because it's the West in summer. And we're on this plateau, and anywhere you look, it's nothing. The plateau itself has some scrub brush and some grass, but it's pretty barren. I get out of the tent. I kind of look around. There's campers everywhere. A few tents, but a lot of people have brought like RVs. And apparently it was like a party type atmosphere. Like later in the day when people were getting up, you see like people had been there for days. They were celebrating. Some of the RVs had like full bars, you know. But this is also primitive camping. So there's no running water. There's no toilets. Now, if you guys can handle that. Laura, the young one, said she loved camping. And then we're like, you're going to have to pee behind a tree. And she's like, no! So she found someone to let her use their makeshift latrine. But I'm walking around, and just, because no one was really up yet. It wasn't even dawn. So it was quiet. It was the most quiet that ever quieted. And I was walking around, trying to get a sense of the space. The air smelled like chalk dust. It was dry. The road was just dusty. You know, there wasn't much. It was pretty flat, but it would drop off. Like the land dropped off down in the middle of the plateau where there's some rock formations, and then to the south it dropped into a little canyon because we were at the Crystal Gardens petroglyph site. So down in this canyon area there were petroglyphs. But people are assholes, so they had to cover up the petroglyphs with a chain link fence because people were messing with them. So I'm walking around and I'm heading towards the eastern end of the plateau so I could see the sun come up, and it starts out blue and then it's pink and then it's red, and then like you can actually see the sun, and you're excited because you know that 6 hours from then the sun is going to get covered up by the moon. It's going to be amazing. So I'm still wandering around, and you know, you'll see animal bones, you'll see cow pies. You won't see any wildlife, but apparently some was even like big dookies. And there was the one thing I didn't realize until later, because it was cold in the morning, obviously, and there'd be like a 4 or 5 inch diameter, almost perfect circle, and it'd be like the grass would stop and it'd be smooth, and there'd be like a hole in the middle. And those were where fire ants lived. I found that out later. I mean, nothing bad happened to me. It's just like I recognized fire ants. I'm like, oh, all right. So I wandered around and, you know, kind of got a feel for the area, took some pictures, wandered back to the campsite. They still weren't up, wandered around. I met some other people that were around the area. People brought dogs, because it's a party atmosphere. Of course, you can bring dogs while camping. I did meet this one tall guy. He was pretty friendly. He's like, good morning. I'm like, good morning. People are setting up telescopes on the southern end because the sun is going to be to the south. So they're on the southern end of the plateau, just kind of like already setting up their telescopes that are connected to computers, that are connected to GPS, because they ended up being the other astrophysicists. So they're ready. And finally everyone wakes up and we're like, okay, well, let's go find your astrophysicist friends. So we hop in the car, we drive 50 feet to the east, and we're like, oh, there's Alan, who was one of the people I talked to that morning. I didn't know, but he was the guy we were looking for. So we drove back to where we camped, and we were there. We were hanging out with them. It was kismet. It was fantastic, because we didn't know how to reach him otherwise. We thought we'd be driving around a plateau for hours. So it starts, right? The sky is clear. It's beautiful. You can look around. You can see in every direction. And I've been reading up about this, like what to expect. You know, what's it going to be like? You know, what to look for. I hear that birds are going to start screeching because I think it's night. And I'm like, okay. So we wait, and it makes contact, and everyone's happy, and we're looking through our glasses, and you know, wandering around taking pictures. It's a very slow-moving thing, right? It's a slow build-up. But then it starts getting closer, right? And I'm hanging out with the astronomers, so every once in a while they'll be like, 24 minutes till totality. And like, it's good, it's exciting. So it's like when you're waiting in line in an amusement park and they're like you're waiting for a roller coaster. It's like, from this point in line, 30 minutes. And you're like, yes. So we, you know, it's coming up, and it's progressively getting darker. Now, it was warm that day, and I didn't have internet on my phone, but I was gonna guess it'd be about like 85. It's warm. But as the sun's getting covered up, it's getting colder. I went from sweating to actually putting on an extra shirt. You know, it wasn't like the temperature dropped. It was just slow, like when the sun goes down at night. And it was dry, so it was like the air didn't hold a lot of heat. It's getting colder. It's getting darker. Bless you. It's getting darker, and 6 minutes till totality. It's getting really dark now. You look through your glasses, you can just see the little crescent. 2 minutes till totality. There's an excitement in the air. The hair is standing up on the back of your neck. Your nipples are getting hard. People are already people are celebrating. Like someone's playing Dark Side of the Moon for the past half hour, and they turn it up a little bit, and everyone's getting a little antsy. People are getting ready to take pictures. I'm wondering, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to experience this? I don't want to be looking through a camera the whole time. That's not how you experience life. 30 seconds till totality. It's getting darker. It's getting darker, and then it hits. And looking through, it's amazing. But then I pull the glasses from my eyes and I look around. Oh, because with 2 minutes, I keep looking behind me because the shadow of the moon is racing across this plain towards the plateau. It's dark back there, and the sun's up here, and it's just coming, and it's cold, and you're excited. You can see it coming. It's just this darkness, and it hits. And the dogs are barking, and everybody's cheering. And I look around, and 360 degrees around me is a sunset. The sky is dark, but there's an orange ring anywhere you look. And I at some point I grab Justice's hand, and I start crying. It's one of those things I didn't even realize until afterwards. I'm like, what is this salty discharge? But it was just it's so emotional, and then the sun comes back out again, and it was one of those things where I didn't, I studied up, and I was like, what do I expect? And you read about it, you're like, okay, that sounds pretty neat, and then you're like, I'm gonna now be the cliched guy who says no words describe it. It was when afterwards I was telling people, I'm like, yeah, I can see how people get addicted to heroin. It was just amazing. There are people who just chase around eclipses around the world, and I can see why you would do that, because it broke my brain. Yeah. I'd saved it back up. I'm fine. It's no problem. Yeah, I think your brain broke. What? But it was an amazing experience, and then we had to drive 13 hours back to Arizona. I ate a lot of gummy bears on the way home. Thank you.